All right, everybody. Time for the right of the people here on Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. Glad to see that we have some people watching. Glad for you guys to come to the panel. I know that Yankee and Mac are having a chat fest at this time. I kind of expected there to be nothing but crickets and tumbleweeds, but instead we actually have live bodies watching. Outstanding. See Philo, he's been out there for a little while. So let's go ahead and say hello to the panel. We'll say hi, Clover. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. Roll call. Glad to see you can make it.
Yeah, I survived my shots in my back, and I kind of feel weird.
Shots in your back?
Yeah, I got a procedure done today for my back because I've been having like horrible back problems. So they stuck me with 4 injections of some stuff. So I honestly just woke up because of the anesthesia. Yeah. But I'm here.
Wow. That's a trooper right there, man.
Man, thanks for having me.
Glad you're feeling better. Anyway.
Heck yeah.
Jamil, how you doing today, sir?
How you doing? I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
See you you're gonna have a little bit of a demonstration for us here later when after we're done talking about the wonderful things in California. If you want to show them just a little taste of what you got.
Okay, here a quick one. Ruger PC carbine just got released today, so we're going to talk about it a little later.
Outstanding. Out in the chat, see RL Swear showed up. Wheelchair Warrior, good to see you guys. So let's go ahead and get this going. We got a couple things to talk about here tonight. We're going to start off with, just like the title said, we're going to talk about the California AMMOGEDDON. In a while back, in their infinite wisdom, the voters in California passed a ballot measure that is going to introduce some new ammunition regulations for them, some wonderful hoops to jump through. I'm going to give you guys an overview of that, and then I got a couple questions for the panel, and then, if you guys out in the chat want to chime in, please feel free. So let me go ahead and set this up here. Going to read a piece from, who's it from? It's by AWR Hawkins from Breitbart. It says, ammunition sales surge as Californians seek to beat new gun controls. California ammunition sales are surging as residents rush to beat the January 1st, 2018 implementation of new gun controls targeting ammo sales. The incoming controls are the outworking of Proposition 63, passed by voters in 2016. These controls include a ban on any ammunition not purchased within the state of California. Moreover, they narrowly define legally purchased ammo as that which is acquired via a licensed dealer in the state. These controls will not only lessen the supply of ammunition available to Californians, thereby driving up the price for bullets, but will also add processing fees to certain ammo sales, driving up the price even higher. I double-checked today because I remembered hearing a comedian say something about this, and I think someone, when they wrote this ballot measure, was listening to Chris Rock, because he did a piece back when he did his show Bigger and Blacker about don't have gun control, have bullet control, about making bullets cost $5,000 a piece. And I think that's what they're after, sort of a backdoor gun control. Right now, Californians are buying ammunition at a frenzied pace, getting it at a cheaper price while they can. Then it goes on to quote Ammo Man about how California's consistently been at the top of the sales, but the biggest difference is that, say, in 2014, 1 in 10 packages were going to California, but last year it was 1 in every 5 packages. Today, every other package is going to California. So people in California are stocking up while they can. And another piece by the Sacramento KRON 4 says that with New Year just days away, new statewide gun laws will go into effect. This article tells a little bit more detail about what the laws actually entail. Says that gun dealers will need to get a certificate of eligibility from the California Department of Justice to verify they passed a background check. Fine Ape, how you doing?
Doing just fine. How about yourself?
Good. Glad to see you here. Says the online ammunition purchases will be shipped to a licensed vendor for transactions, meaning they will no longer ship to a buyer's home. Here's a full list of what this law entails. Number one, criminal relinquishment of firearms. Beginning on January 1st, 2018, Prop 63 introduces and implements a clear, mandatory, and enforceable process for criminal offenders to give up their firearms upon their conviction. I kind of thought they were already supposed to do that. Says that until now, a major gap in California law is that the state has no mechanism to ensure that individuals who've been convicted of a serious criminal offense, including domestic violence crimes, actually turn over possession of their firearms. That's interesting that they didn't have a mechanism to do that. I don't know that I would disagree with that part of this. But here comes the what I consider the really bordering on tyranny. Ammunition sales. Beginning on January 1st, 2018, Proposition 63, ammunition sales must be conducted by or processed through licensed vendors. It will serve to prevent certain convicted criminals from purchasing ammunition once the new law for background checks for ammunition sales comes online in July 2019. Yeah, because, you know, criminals won't either steal it or go across state lines and get it because, you know, the law says they can't.
Of course not.
Yeah, you know. Let's just make something more illegal. Sales of ammunition by unlicensed individuals must be processed through a licensed ammunition vendor in a manner similar to a private party firearms transactions, and ammunition obtained over the internet or from out of state must be initially shipped to a licensed ammunition vendor for physical delivery to the purchaser pursuant to a background check. So they want to treat ammunition as if it's firearms. You have to go through a background check, and the also part of it, which starts on July 1st, 2019, goes into effect, is that the ammunition sale records and background check records have to be kept and submitted to the California Department of Justice. So they're basically going to have a de facto ammunition registry. As I read this, I have to wonder, what in the hell are the voters in California thinking about this? I don't understand this.
They're not thinking.
They have swallowed the Kool-Aid so bad that that's all they have running through their veins, I guess.
Yeah, just,
you know. So here's my question: at what point is enough here? You know, I am never going to advocate that someone break the law. You know, if it's the law, it's the law, and that's that. That being said, at what point does it become moral to engage in civil disobedience, if not outright rebellion to tyranny? You know, where's the line? You know, they're already, California has some of the most draconian, if not the most draconian, gun laws in the nation, and now they're extending this to ammunition. You know, where do you draw the line? Where's it end? You know.
Well, I think I liken it to, you know, the old adage of, you know, you don't just throw the frog into the pot of boiling water. You know, you put him in there and then turn the heat up slowly. And I think that's what you're seeing. You see especially with California, is I think that, you know, people are, for the most part, numb to what's going on there. You hear about people moving from California, at a breakneck pace. You do not hear about people moving into California at any kind of a pace. Therefore, you've got to assume, to keep population up and everything else, you've got people maybe immigrating, both illegally or legally, I guess, potentially from Mexico into California, but then also being born in California. So, and with those people, you're still a frog that the heat's slowly getting turned up on. You know, you're not used to having that type of freedom. So it's I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of it when you say, well, what are these voters thinking? I don't know that they know any better because they really haven't been taught or seen or experienced better. They hear about it, but then it's just like when we hear about stuff on the news and we go, oh, that's fake news, or that's BS or whatever. They probably have the same mentality about a lot of things because, I hear about things in other parts of the country, and I hear about things that even supposedly go on here in Texas, and I'm like, nah, that's a bunch of crap. That's not true. And I'm sure they have the same mentality, and unfortunately, when you talk about things that get portrayed in a different light, that typically has a left slant, not a right slant. So the stuff that they're thinking is fake news or whatever you want to call it is actually truthful. It actually is better in other states, and other states are doing things a lot more efficiently and promoting freedom in a lot better way. They just don't realize it, and quite honestly, I think that ignorance is bliss, and I think that when you live in the land of fruits and nuts that is California, then I think there's a lot of blissful people, to put it nicely, that live in California. They're more concerned about the Hollywood and the new pair of I can't even think of them because I don't wear them, but the new pair of LeBrons or Jordans, or working out and getting ripped abs, or life in the hills, in the valleys, tech related stuff, whatever. I mean, it's just that, I don't know, fancy schmancy lifestyle, I guess. I think you've got people that get wrapped up into all of that, and then they're willfully ignorant of everything else that's going on there, and that's not necessarily a poke at them, because we all tend to get wrapped up in our lives at some point. It's just at what point, as far as the guys on this panel and a lot of the folks that are probably out there listening right now, we're the type of people that we got a lot less of a tolerance to BS. And when infringement comes along, we recognize it, and we rise up and we rail against it a lot quicker, because we see it affect our everyday life. Where, if you're just going out to the beach and surfing, or, picking your grapes and making wine, or making the next Google phone or something, does an infringement on the Second Amendment really affect you that much? Not really. So, you've got kind of that built-in ignorance, plus a little bit of apathy, plus a little bit of skepticism from what you're hearing on the news. And I think it's a dangerous combination of several things that creates that situation that is California.
Fair enough. John, you're behind enemy lines on the other coast, so I'm sure that you have a perspective on this. New York is similar to California in that you have a geographically small area controlling the rest of the state. What's your thoughts on this?
I think it's plain and simple. You have two sides of the other side. There are the people who are very lackadaisical about anything around them. Like Clover said, as long as they have everything they need, their brand name this or their expensive that, they could care less. And then you have the other side of the other side, which are those people who like to be argumentative. And as we've heard on a few live chats in the last couple of weeks, there are people who will try to convince you of something that we all know by fact and evidence to be false of their trying to convince us. So there are people who will always try to be argumentative and excuse me, and try to make sense of their side. And we all know that's not the case, because we have something called truth and evidence on our side. And it gets to a point, like Clover said, which I only just got in, But we get frustrated with that. We get very tired, and it's just it's it's frustrating.
Well, one thing that I wonder about all this, because I know that, as I said, it's in California as well as New York. It's a case of a geographically small area with an admittedly large population kind of runs rampant over the rest of the state. At what point does the rest of the state say enough's enough and do something about it? I mean, where does that line in the sand come?
Well,
I
I
go
believe the
ahead.
difficult part is in the response to that ridiculousness of the other side. It's hard to find a middle ground with some people because they just want to be argumentative.
Yeah.
And in a case like New York and California as well, you have a large part of the population dictating for the rest of the state, and the rest of the state doesn't want it, and they're getting frustrated. And the problem is one of the problems is we're not voting in the right people to do the job correctly.
No, absolutely
And
not.
that's where it's having such a large proportion of such a small state dictating to everybody. And it's unfortunate. And that's
I would like to
Go
jump
ahead.
in here. I'd like to jump in here just to say real quick. For those that want to bash the electoral college, look at California. Look at what we're talking about now. That's why we have the electoral college.
exactly. Thank God for
Yeah.
the electoral college.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Otherwise, the urban areas would be running roughshod over all the rest of us.
See, I actually bought a paper yesterday, and I have noticed that Illinois, since I live close to those guys, that they have had a drop in people coming to their state, and they have had a huge increase of people leaving the state, and it was on their front page of their paper. And I've noticed when I go to my local gun ranges that I see a lot of Illinois tags, and I actually asked somebody, I'm like, so you're from Illinois? And he's like, yeah. He's like, we can't do this kind of stuff over in Illinois. You know, we can't own this, we can't own that. We moved. So I've noticed that trend over here in Illinois. A lot more people are leaving Illinois than are actually going there to settle. And that's for the whole state. With all their crazy gun laws and all their restrictions, people are just, they're not even voting. They're just leaving their state at will.
And it really doesn't come down just to their anti-gun laws. It comes down to everything. The people that are on the anti-gun side are usually fighting for things that'll break the state financially, turn people against each other. Those are the same people on that line. I mean, you have the people that are 50-50 on some issues, but for the most part, with those large populations in the smaller cities controlling everything for the rest of the state, those are the people. The anti-gun, anti-life, make one side fight the other side, and they're making sides. They're creating sides that don't exist. And it's a horrible situation, and you can't blame those people for wanting to escape that.
Oh no, I would flee with great haste, Ohio, if it started to go down that road. You know, I couldn't stay here if it started to go along those communist socialist quote unquote liberal path. No way.
Wait, no, those are not the same thing. All right. Communist socialism is not the same as being a liberal.
Anymore it is.
They're connected together often, but they are not the same thing. And that's silly.
Well,
I do absolutely applaud the people that are in California that keep trying to fight the good fight. But the fact of the matter is the numbers just aren't there. John Z experiences the same thing in New York. The numbers just aren't there. And trying to get elected officials in there to be able to change it just isn't going to happen, because those numbers are voting for those other officials. And so it doesn't, to me, it's a sad thing, because I was born and raised a California boy, and I had to flee California. And it's pathetic, unfortunately, but the masses have the numbers. The masses are the ones that vote those politicians into place, and they're sheep. They have absolutely no clue that what those politicians are doing behind closed doors.
So it's a losing fight, is what I'm hearing.
Pretty much. That's what it feels like.
Even if it's a losing fight, we still
Yeah,
have
I think California, like I said, because of the exodus, and then you don't have the repopulation from those outside of California at the same rate as that exodus. That repopulation is happening from within. Then I think that California has reached already a tipping point, to where it's just, I think it's going to forever be a shining example of what not to do. Illinois, I think there may be hope potentially in the future. New York, I think there may be hope potentially in the future, but California is one of those that I think it's reached its tipping point. I think it's went over the edge, so to speak.
Yeah, I watch California because it tends to be the test bed for what they want to do with the rest of the country, at least as far as gun rights go. And I'm sure we're going to see efforts to do the same thing with ammunition that they're doing there come to other places. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. I, for one, don't think for a second that most people are going to follow this at all. I suspect, number one, the criminal element, they're all going to go cross borders, and it's going to become bigger business to smuggle ammunition into California, for a fact. And so someone is going to make a lot of money from it. Number two, they're going to turn law-abiding citizens into felons, because law-abiding citizens aren't going to go through this, a good many of them anyway. And they're going to go cross state lines and buy ammunition and smuggle it back for their own use. I don't see anything.
Well, I haven't. Yeah, and I haven't looked into the legislation, at least not deep enough to know this, and I'm wondering if anybody here has, as far as where reloading components fall on that ammunition list. Do they fall into the same category that's restricted to be shipped in?
I don't want to give a definite answer to that, but I think, but that's all I can commit. I think.
Okay, no, the regulations on mail order sales do not apply to reloading componants.
Really?
Well, there's your golden egg that you were talking about earlier. There's the booming business that's fixing the prohibition style business that's fixing to take off.
Don't say it too loud. They'll wait till 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody's sleeping to pass something to satisfy that as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
Yeah, California is strange.
That speaks to the inconsistency, and I mean, this whole restriction on the ammunition and the registration on the ammunition. There's nothing about it that makes any kind of sense, and there's nothing about it that changes anything or prevents anything. By their own admittance, they can't keep, can't keep the firearms away from felons. By their own admittance, they can't do that. So instead of, hey, we need to focus on fixing this problem, they want to create more regulation. That's something that's not even related to what they're having a problem. Well, I guess it's related because you're talking ammunition versus firearms, but it's like, well, since we are having a problem taking the firearms away from felons, let's just restrict under the guise of that let's just restrict their ability to get ammunition now. No, why don't you, do what you're supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be enforcing the regulation that's in play, and that happens across the country. We see that from the ATF and the FBI and NICS and all them that have time and time again. They're the ones. It's the government that is failing, and that's the problem I have inherently with the people wanting to put power into the federal government or even the state government in the case of California, that people actually think that the government can protect them or the government can do any kind of good, when on a consistent basis the government fails.
And they've proven that. The mass shooter passed a background check, and
well, that tells you that government does not work when they try to regulate like that. It just don't work. That's what it tells you. So and until you get people that are not blinded by the fact that government is there to provide for them and protect them, and and you can instill some confidence, some self worth. I don't know what is the word I'm looking for.
Self-reliance.
Self-esteem. Yeah, self-reliance, self-esteem in people, to take care of themselves and their own, and not rely on everybody and other things. And until you can change that, it's just like trickle down economics. It's social stuff is a trickle up effect.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're dealing when we see these governments. I mean, the people get the government they deserve.
Philo on the chat says that the California strategy is to pester people out of gun ownership. I got to agree with him. I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat here for a second. This isn't aimed at criminals. This isn't aimed at stopping crime. This isn't aimed at saving lives. This isn't aimed at doing anything other than discouraging lawful firearms ownership. Period.
Or any kind of firearms ownership. In the end, it's a gun grab, and you would have to be, minus the tinfoil hat, you would have to be utterly ignorant or just plain brain dead not to see that they're going for a total gun grab over there.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's nothing more than backdoor gun control. The NRA.
I mean, if you can't,
the NRA is challenging it. The NRA ILA put out a piece. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Not that. They're actually, this is from, who's this from? From BearingArms.com. I'm not going to read the whole piece, but it says that the NRA has asked for a stay of enforcement on these new rules until they can try to figure out. Something to do with it, where they're going to start taking this through the court system. Philo also mentioned that the only thing that they can do in California is to take it to the courts and pray that the Supremes eventually take this whole matter up and clear it for the country, which is really the case.
Right. So their last thing was the trying to determine what their course of action would be.
Yeah, they've asked for a stay of enforcement, and let's see. Vendor requirements. Let's see. They're requesting an official stay of enforcement of the new ammunition vendor requirements and clarification on the intentions regarding enforcement of the new law. So they don't want. They're buying for time until they can get something else put together. I would imagine.
Right.
Because they're
well, and I'm sure they're buying for time too, because of the whole licensed dealer crap that California's dragging their feet on. I'm sure that's one reason that
how many licensed dealers?
They haven't done their. It goes on to say that the NRA ILA request is a solid one. They're simply asking that vendors be able to conduct their business on January 1st due to the failure of the state government to do their part in a timely manner as prescribed by law. So yeah, they're asking for a stay of enforcement on this because California's been dragging their feet on it.
How many vendors have they approved in the last 5 years, by the way?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's how you complete your grab, though. You say, okay, well, can't all ammunition has to be registered, it has to go through a licensed vendor, and then you don't hand out those licenses. And then when you don't hand out those licenses, you can't get ammunition in. People have firearms, but they can't go shoot them or use them. So they just sit there. And then when they just sit there, then you throw in a really good buyback program, because let's face it, California's always spent money they don't have. And then the people are sitting there. I would say probably the majority of people that are going to be sitting there with firearms. There are some that I know that live in California that are staunch Second Amendment people, and that's great. But the vast majority are not. And they're sitting there thinking, okay, I've got this firearm here. I can't go anywhere and buy ammunition for it. I can't get ammunition shipped in. And they're offering me basically what I gave for it. You know, I'm just going to go turn it in.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I think right. I think that's the ultimate end game here.
I would say the one thing about them not issuing their ammunition seller licenses or that, no, they have to do that. There's a precedent set with the NFA back in 35 or so, because for the first year they just didn't issue any of the tax stamps to anyone who applied for that. The Supreme Court said no, you have to issue the tax stamps. Now they could be like New York and say, oh well, yeah, we'll issue it, but it's a $4,000 a year fee for you to
maintain
have this license, or oh yeah, we'll dole it out with the little eyedropper to 2 or 3 places in the state. So,
all right.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious, Matt, what from maybe Matt's perspective, what he sees on the ground there. Don't necessarily live in a crazy liberal area, I don't think. Do you, Matt?
Well, you know, I am in the state, so yes, but no, I live in one of the less gun unfriendly zones, because, you know, I don't like to necessarily apply the liberal label to everybody who's anti-gun, or the other way around. Because I like.
Hey, I've got a friend that I've actually thought about bringing on that's allegedly says he's pro-gun, but he's flaming liberals, except for that one thing. So I understand what you're talking about.
Like, you know, Yankees like this, but I lean heavily towards the left side of the spectrum. I'm pro-choice, pro-gays, whatever. But, you know, I have to vote. My big issue is, of course, guns. But this is just aggravating. It annoys everybody I know who's a firearms person here. You know, this is the first time I've seen actual people bother to call their representatives or anything like that, is when I mentioned it at work, and they're like, hey, yeah, I totally forgot that was going on. How do we get a hold of this person? And
Right.
it's aggravating everybody who is, you know, legally doing their own thing and just wants to go shoot it now and then.
So, as someone who's
Well, that's good to
there,
hear, and that's why I asked that, is because, you know, all too often we kind of lump California together, and I'm sure there's people, you know, you need to make it known that there are people there that do call and do fight and do push, you know, to keep this crap from happening. It's just they're overwhelmed is the issue.
That's right.
So,
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there.
no, it's all right. I'm curious, you know, as someone who's there, boots on the ground, lives in California, talks to other gun owners, and you know, knows the firearms community in California. What is the sense there of when is enough enough?
I'm just gonna say this. Unfortunately, for many folks who have school-age children and elderly family members, it's for a lot of them, it's enough is enough has already crossed that line by a mile, but they don't have any choice because they can't just pick up and leave.
There's only so much we can do without
Exactly.
either getting up and leaving, which is not a financial reality for a lot of people,
Exactly.
or, you know, actually, you know, real physical disobedience, which, you know, can, once you pass that line, then you better hope everybody's got your back, or there is no going back. Unless
there's serious repercussions.
Unless there's a big enough group, and just there isn't. You know, we can do what we can do, but the problem is, you know, 95% of people who believe in an issue are completely apathetic about it. You know, this huge thing comes up, and nobody does anything about it or knows about it until afterwards. They're like, oh, I guess that sucks. But I'm like, you could have done something if you'd been paying attention.
Correct. I mean, so most people just they just stick their heads in the sand and think somebody else is going to do the job, and they just don't do it.
So it's just a consequence of voter apathy, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
but
saw that-
that all falls under the umbrella of not having those numbers in states like California, New York, and so on. So
But
that
even
still
with
plays a
numbers,
part.
all the numbers in the world don't make a difference if nobody does anything with that. Because all the money is in the hands of those few, and they're the ones who bother to vote. They're the ones who bother to make policy. Like everybody at my work, I would say 9 out of every 10 people is a gun owner, is a pro-gun. We go on company shoots, but it is against the rules to carry firearms on the property because the one guy who doesn't like guns is the boss. He's the big guy. He makes the decisions. And that's how it's running down, is the people with the money, people who make the decisions are the ones who are fighting against a larger number of people who can't be bothered to make the move.
And that comes back down to bad government.
Yes.
Well, I think another problem with California is the movie stars. If you look on the news, there is a movie star. If you look on Twitter, there's a movie star always pointing the finger at guns, and they
Usually
hold a
one
lot
that
of
made a
clout.
fortune exploiting them too, I might
Yeah.
add.
Yeah,
but
you know.
not
Go
all,
ahead.
not
Point
all,
in it either.
no, go ahead. Not all holy weirdos are anti-gun. There's a bunch
True.
of them who are pro-gun, and I know a bunch of them who are pro-gun. They just keep themselves in the closet, and that's what happened back in the '92 riots. Some of those pro-gun people were getting phone calls from the anti-gunners saying, "Hey, can you get me a gun?" And they were saying, "No, well, you have to wait 10 days and do the paperwork," because that's what I did. So that's what happens.
And that's not just a problem, in California or just with guns. People have this worship for celebrities, and they think, oh, this is, the celebrities know better. For God knows what reason anybody would follow, Gwyneth Paltrow or John Travolta or any of them and think that they know what's going on.
Exactly. I'm not saying that it's just the movie stars. But they hold a lot of clout, especially with the younger generation people. And when they say guns are bad, those people hold movie stars to a higher standard than at times even their own family members. And that's when, the problems start arising, and then these people get of age to vote, and then they vote against gun laws because movie stars have so much clout, they have so much influence in social media and around the world that it's a constant struggle. I teach my kids, don't listen to movie stars. You can watch their movie, but don't listen to anything they have to say politically, because there's always an agenda behind it, whether they're giving money to candidates or they're just, at the point where, they don't, like Kim Kardashian was saying, that we don't deserve to own firearms, only the rich and powerful do. She's been caught saying that quite a bit of times. I mean, those kind of people's mentalities
they
suck.
just have their armed security teams have firearms because I have an armed security team at my beck and call.
Well, you do. They're just not nearly as quick to get there as hers is.
Now those are just cleanup guys. They're just the cleanup crew. That's it. That's all that is. When my next door neighbor got shot and killed in his house, and sure, the cops got there in time to catch the guy that did it coming out the door, but really all they did was clean up.
Yeah. I don't dial 911. I dial, 1911.
Exactly.
Outstanding. You are.
Like go ahead, man.
Go.
Well, I in the end, I think that really the only thing that's barring a tremendous shift in public opinion in California and New York, the thing that's going to be of best benefit to pro-gun folks in those states is going to be a Supreme Court decision to put the issue to rest. But lately they seem to be very particular in which Second Amendment cases they're taking.
Or not taking.
Yeah, or not. California, Clover mentioned earlier about inconsistencies in the application of California's laws. And it's funny he should do that, because I have a piece here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just kind of going to skim it. That the NRA ILA put out about LA County issues carry licenses to the well-connected and skirts its own policies. Their California laws, for those who don't know, it says that a sheriff of a county can issue a concealed carry license. Their California laws, for those who don't know, it says that a sheriff of a county can issue a concealed license.
From your Matt.
Who's got it on? California laws, for those who don't.
Someone's running their chat.
Matt.
Here we go. All right. It says that they can issue a concealed carry license on receiving proof that the applicant is of good moral character. Good cause exists for issuance of the license. The applicant is a resident of the county or a city within the county, or has a principal place of employment or business in the county or a city within the county, and the applicant spends substantial period of time in the place of employment or business, or that the applicant has completed a course of training as described in that section of law. It does not define what good moral character is. It does not define what good cause is. That's up to the local sheriff's office to determine. LA County has written a policy that defines that and says that good cause shall exist only if there's a convincing evidence of a clear and present danger to life or of a great bodily harm to the applicant, his spouse, or dependent child, which cannot be adequately dealt with by existing law enforcement resources, and which danger cannot be reasonably avoided by alternative measures, and which danger would be significantly mitigated by the applicant's carrying of a concealed firearm. It also says that your job or position or job classification shall not in itself constitute good cause. However, the California state auditor, did a audit of their licensing practices and found that they studied 25 CCW licenses that were issued. They found that 22 of the 25 licenses were issued to applicants with professions that connected them to the law enforcement community. They were former or current law enforcement officers, judges, court commissioners, retired federal agents, and deputy district attorneys. And they found that out of 197 licenses that LA had issued that were effective as of mid-August 2017, only 9 were issued to applicants outside of that community. So, apparently the LA County's policy is good for me and not for thee. You have to be connected to somebody in order to get a concealed carry license in LA County. In contrast, Sacramento County has, let's see, with a population of 1.5 million, Sacramento County has issued 9,130 CCW licenses. So in California, it really demonstrates the inconsistency and the potential for, I almost want to say corruption, in the May issue concealed carry scheme. I'm really wish that the Supreme Court had taken a may issue versus shall issue case. I think that Peruta was the one that I was hoping that they would have taken, but they decided not to.
See, here in the state of Indiana, it's not given out by the sheriffs. It's given out by the state police. And I think it's all right. But see, here in Indiana, they don't take what California is doing into into the context that you're saying that it's only interpreted pretty much if you're connected to law enforcement. Here, the state police just looks at pretty much just your record, if you have a criminal background, and basically what kind of area you live in. Where I live close to Gary, and Gary's a horrible place. Don't ever go there. And then you have Chicago 60 miles. I mean, they're starting to realize that now that it's getting harder for people to obtain guns, that the criminals are coming across state lines and getting the guns. So they feel, look, you have to protect yourself, and they will issue a conceal and carry permit.
Is your state a may issue or shall issue?
Shall
issue? Yeah, that's how it is here in Ohio. It's shall issue. If you meet the qualifications, in other words, if you can pass the criminal background check, if you take the required 8 hours of training, and you pay the application fee and get fingerprinted and all that good garbage, the sheriff has to issue you a concealed carry license within, I think it's 45 days. That's how long.
I have no issue with the training. Zero issue. If they want you to have training, fine, have training. Stop trying to blackmail people out of their money, though, with some states with the ridiculous $5, $6, $7, $8, $9,000 requirements.
Yeah.
For even applying for anything, you're blackmailing people for their constitutional rights.
Well, and then a large percentage of those states, even if you do pay that vigorous, basically,
there's no guarantee.
You do pay the tax, they'll just say nope.
Exactly.
Well,
they'll take your money, but they won't give you the permit.
Well, my definition of a permit is when the government takes away your rights and then sells them back to you.
Yeah, absolutely right. Maybe someday we can all live in a free state like Arizona.
Yeah, well, we have constitutional concealed carry here, so it's a lot of requirements now. When you get stopped by the police, you got to tell them right away that you're carrying, and so on and so forth. But I still have my permit for many reasons. I mean, reciprocity towards other states, and also just makes it easier, when you're dealing with the gun-free zones, like driving in front of a school or something like that. Sure. Having a permit makes it a whole lot easier. I mean, the Constitution, the Arizona concealed carry says that you can actually have a firearm in the trunk of your car if you go into a school, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have a permit, and it has to be locked out, But still, it's not that they're going to throw you in prison for doing that. So it's a good idea to have it.
Yeah, I like having mine. I like having mine just to circumvent the 4473, the background call in. On the 4473, that alone is worth the cost every 4 or 5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now.
Ohio relatively recently enacted that. I think it's great. The last time I went and bought a gun, all I had to do was show my concealed handgun license, and that was it.
That's awesome.
I had to fill out the form, but I didn't have to mess with the background check.
Fill out the form, pay them, walk out the door.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to do any of that nonsense. But for example, I took the Nevada, Clark County, Las Vegas permit because a couple of years ago they had declined Arizona reciprocity, and so I took the class, the whole thing, when I went to SHOT Show, and then when I got my permit 2 weeks later, they gave reciprocity again. So okay. So I have 2 permits.
Well, at least you're still covered if they decide to change their mind again.
Yep. And I'll have to take the class again. It's like a 3-4 hour class. But the cool thing is I knew the instructor, so he gave me and my buddy the class privately in our hotel room.
Oh, that's neat.
And then we went to the range.
That's awesome.
So it was great, But
at least someone there is using common sense.
Oh,
yeah, no kidding. Well, Jamil, we're coming down to the last 10 minutes or so of the show. I know you had something that you wanted to share with us.
Here it
So
is.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
This is the new Ruger PC carbine. Just came out today. It is pretty interesting because it's all sorts of cool. Has a fluted barrel, threaded barrel with a thread protector, has an O-ring in it, so it retains the thread protector. And the cool thing is a takedown. So I hope you all can see it. There you go. It's two pieces. Fits in
nice.
fits in a backpack. Really, really cool. I'm gonna call Ruger, see if I can get one of their takedown backpacks to put mine in. And then cool thing is magazines. Somebody was asking me about it. It comes in with a SR9 and Security 9 magwell. The Security 9 SR9 magazines have different mag catches, so that's why they can't interchange, but they both fit on the carbine as is. And they are also shipped with another block for Glock 9mm magazines. So if you have a pile full of Glock magazines, you just exchange it. It takes about 5 minutes to exchange. It's pretty simple.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
I got a quick question for you. So how do you find, have you taken this out?
Yes, yes.
How do you find the zeroing when you take it apart and reassemble it? Do you have to re-zero?
No, because the front and rear sights are on the barrel end of it. So
It's pretty much
Okay,
just
and
a
there's no
10-22
wiggle, and there's
takedown.
no wiggle room there.
no, not at all. I mean, once you sight your
Okay.
rear sight, your front sight, you put it back in, and it is tight. It is very, very tight. This one here, the handguard is a little loose on mine, but that's not a big deal. I just need to. They include every single Allen wrench that you need to tighten your thing. So just go ahead and make it tight, and it fits. It has a Picatinny rail in the front, if you can see it there, so you can put bipod or something. And other than that, it's a really cool rifle, very accurate. I have a video I put on Facebook of me shooting it offhand at 25 yards with a suppressor on it, and I was dinging a standard size pepper popper like pretty much every shot. I think I missed out of a full mag. I think I missed twice. So pretty damn accurate, and for the price, very inexpensive.
What's the MSRP?
Let me get it for you.
Like mid-5s, I think.
Yeah, but then again, remember with Ruger, it's sort of like the MSRP is pretty much meaningless because that's not what people sell it for. I think MSRP in it is $649. So I am going to say middle 5s, if that.
Okay.
And because the Security 9 pistol is $379, but they were saying that their map is $299. So I'm thinking that it's going to be in the mid 5s, maybe 575 or something. So
You know if they have any plans to come out with other calibers anytime soon?
I am assuming so. I am not going to say anything right now because I am assuming they will, because of they make the security. The SR in other calibers. So I imagine like back in the 90s when they had the PC9 and PC40, that they will probably come up with a 40 caliber one.
I'm waiting for a manufacturer to come out with something that is breakable, like you just did. You took it apart in 2 parts, and have it where the part you reattach is that caliber you want to switch to.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. It's just you probably have to change the bolt or the breech face or something. But that's, I mean, what you're saying is not impossible to do because, you know, in between 40 and 9, the breech face difference is very slight, but there's still a difference. So I'm thinking that, yeah, maybe something you can change your bolt or change your recoil spring or something, and be
Right,
ready
like
to go.
something like a quick attach kit.
Yeah.
Well, there's already other aftermarket manufacturers making 1022 takedown barrels, and I'm assuming this is pretty much just a beefed up 1022 takedown, because Ruger's trying to get the money out of their R&D.
Well, believe it or not, the trigger group in here is a 1022 trigger group. So it's identical to a 1022 trigger group. I mean, they just
that
basically
opens up possibilities for a lot of different aftermarket triggers to put in it then, because there's
Correct.
a plethora of them for the 1022.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
There you
they're using the what they learned from back in the 90s with a PC9, PC40, and they're applying it to the 21st century with takedown capabilities. I mean, it's very accurate. I mean, it is incredibly accurate for a $500, $550 carbine.
Nice.
And making it magazine, you know, oh, and it's ambidextrous. Mag catch is ambidextrous. Your bolt handle is ambidextrous. You can just unscrew it with your Allen and put it on the other side. Your mag catch takes a little bit more. You have to take it apart to swap it, but you can actually put your mag catch on the other side. So that's pretty cool too. And I'm assuming somebody was asking me today if the old, remember the old P85 magazines, if he would take it. And I'm assuming that at some point, Ruger's going to say it takes what, a couple of hundred, you know, a couple of $100 to make a new, you know, probably a couple of thousand to make a new mold. They'll probably make it and pour them in and make them for like, you know, sell them for 15, 20 bucks. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea for them to do that. There's a lot of those older Ruger magazines out there.
Yep. And there's, I mean, it's a pile full. They made those P series pistols for over 10 years. So I think there's a few 100,000 magazines out there. So, but I think Glock, it was a great choice to make it Glock compatible.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good choice. I think it's and they also released today their rimfire precision rifle, which is basically a bolt action, like a reduced version of their precision rifle. It's in 2-inch long rifle. It's really, I tried it when I was there in early December. Really, really nice. And it's it just got released today, but I don't have it yet. So maybe soon. I actually want a gunsight scout rifle before I get that one.
450 Bushmaster, 308, or 5.56?
I think I'm going to go with 308. That's the original one, but 450 Bushmaster is a good choice too. I know the guys from their gunsight, they told me they have them all, so I could go play with them and pick the one I want. So
if you pick a 700, just letting you know my birthday's coming around the corner.
Oh, okay.
Just saying.
Oh, just okay. Yeah, I'll think about it. I have a 700 barreled action back there, but I'm going to build a rifle on it. I just don't know what I'm going to build yet.
I'm not picky. I'm just saying.
No, I know you're not. You know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Ruger seems to be on the 450 Bushmaster bandwagon because they came out with the American in 450 and then the gunsight in 450. And I even saw that they have a Ruger #1, which I'm kind of a little torn on because I like their stainless and laminate guns, especially in #1, but they got that fugly Panzer brake on the end of it. And I've got one in 4570. That's got to kick a lot more than 450 Bushmaster.
I'm really thinking about buying an AR in 450 Bushmaster because you can't hunt with necked cartridges here in Ohio. But 450 Bushmaster is right up in there too. So I think I might have to get one just for that.
I tried it last August, and I was impressed. Very accurate, but packs a kick. You know, it'll leave a mark. How's that?
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. Everybody out in the chat, I'm glad you guys were here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Everybody on the panel, thanks for stopping in and giving us your input, being part of the conversation. Going to go ahead and go through the room here and get final thoughts. If you guys want to plug anything, you know, just any final words from you guys. Well, I didn't quite mean final words. You know, it's not like that. But Clover, anything you want to say?
I just want to say thanks for the invite. Thanks for everybody out there that watched, listened, whatever. And check out gunchannels.com, of course. That's where a lot of us hang out, and you can come over there for free and hang out as well. And then I'll have Firearm Friday here in a couple of hours, so at 10 Eastern time. So stick around for that, maybe.
Outstanding. Fine Ape, anything you want to add?
Yeah, go over to gunchannels.com. Every Second Matters is coming up here in a couple of days, so check that out as well. And if you like mediocrely made YouTube videos, you can check me out at FineApe1393 on YouTube.
Matt, anything you want to add?
No, just thanks for having me. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm glad to be here.
Sure, no problem. Roll call.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on this show. And follow my channel, Roll Call 219, if you want to see even more horrible shot videos.
Hey, I hope you get to feeling better, man. I don't know if any of you guys came in late, caught it, but Roll Call had a back procedure done today and got some shots and whatnot in his back, and he got up and came here to be on the show.
Oh wow!
Hats off to you, man.
God bless you.
Commitment right there.
God bless you.
Dedication, my friends. Dedication. We
That's
have
the
to
way to
have
do it.
dedication.
John, anything you want to plug?
I just want to say thank you to you, Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, as well as everyone for joining us and the panelists. Please go check out gunchannels.com. Don't forget the hashtag buy things at gearwebsites.com. Thank you.
Emil?
Well, thank you for having me. I'd like to wish you all a very happy new year, to all the panelists and all the people watching, and keep an eye on for gun stock reviews. Hopefully we're growing. We got 1,100 followers already, so it's growing slowly, but one of these days I'll have 1 million followers. I hope.
Absolutely. All right. I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Again, thanks to everybody on the panel. Thanks to everybody watching. That's your why I do it. Until then, come on back next week. Be part of the conversation. Have a good one.